we are doing a reunion for my group, the Marvelous 3, who hasn't played
Oh,
together.
wow.
And we are doing the 25th anniversary of the debut album, on reissuing it on vinyl, which has never come out on vinyl because back then there was no demand for vinyl. And a new record to boot at the same time. And we're announcing a couple of shows in our hometown of Atlanta, Georgia.
How'd you get into producing?
I always produced my own stuff because I always had to record my own shit because I didn't have the money. I didn't have any money growing up ever. And so I think around 98, 97, 98 maybe, I had a opportunity. This is when computer recording started taking off,
Right.
and
Pro Tools?
I got a little used Pro Tools rig that was at the music store, one of the music stores in Atlanta, that a local R&B one-hit wonder group called Silk had traded in for a newer system. So this was the older, outdated version, and it only had 16 tracks available of recording. And it was still a game changer for me because I got it and I got home and I've never even had a computer. I learned how to work a computer right away. I was like up all night till like 7 in the morning.
So how old are you then?
About 27.
Yeah, that's the magic age of energy and all of that and dedication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this was a rebirth for me. I was like, oh my God, there's so much I can do with so little. This is great. And so I started recording at home, and I'd be falling asleep and waking up with the sun up, in my underwear and a robe, just like with everything scattered in a living room of a guest house that I was squatting in because I didn't have enough money to pay rent anywhere. And I recorded what would be the first record for a band called the Marvelous3. And it had a song on it. Out of all these 12 songs I recorded, had a song on it that I had put on there called Freak of the Week. And the local radio station started playing. They heard the song, and it was like a very influential top 5 radio station for modern rock alternative in the country. In the mid 90s, there was like Blur and Oasis and all these bands that came along. So there was a lot of like Britpop and post grunge and pop punk and things like that.
Green Day broke on modern rock.
Green Day and Weezer broke on modern rock.
Yeah.
And those were
Smashing Pumpkins and
and that was all my favorite shit in the mid 90s. Like that was what I really was into because
me too.
I was really into it. And so our band was sort of not far from that path. It was like poppy, punky, new wavy and power pop, so garagey. It was all these things that I loved about late 70s bands like that, like the Raspberries and the Knack and all these groups that were coming out in that era. We kind of nodded to that, but realized that it also was modern and fresh at the time, because to me that was what bands like Weezer were doing their best, Pixies and people like that. So it was like there was a lot of room for melodic, catchy, guitar driven, fun music. So I just made a whole album of it in my living room. And when that song started getting played on the radio there by the program director, Leslie Fram, who changed my life. So next thing you know, labels that wouldn't sign us or even pay attention to us because we dressed funny and had skinny ties and tight black jeans and eyeliner on, because this was like 98 before that became a thing. All of them were offering us blank checks.
I want to talk to you about the what happened in 2007 and the record you made, the after the Sycamore Meadows.
Yeah. Yeah, the fires and everything that kind of helped shape that record. So that was traumatic. It was really traumatic and really tough. I mean, I had like 50 vintage guitars and like
Oh God.
30 vintage microphone, everything I had ever wanted and desired to have for my job growing up, a kid with no money
Right.
ever. I finally was making money to buy all the things I wanted to make records and build my fortress and build my playhouse and, whatever. So, I mean, it put it a lot in perspective, because this is why I want to say this is the most important thing. It's okay. It is okay. It's just shit. No one died.
Right.
And most importantly, I learned that none of that stuff matters
Yeah.
if you have friends. There's people that are rich, successful, famous, whatever people, and don't have a single fucking friend
Yeah.
that they can call a good person, and vice versa. Sometimes they're people that are not great people to be around. Just because they're loaded and popular doesn't mean they're good humans. And
Yeah.
so you can die lonely and rich. And at the time, I wouldn't say we were rich, but I would say I was well off beyond any of my wildest dreams at that time, with compared to what I'd ever, had before that. And so I think what happened was my perspective just really changed and my heart really opened up, because I realized how important friendship was and how important people were to me, because the amount of outreach and the amount of people that were coming to help and coming to like be there for you. And it's like, man, I don't know how to say this. I don't need anything. I'm okay. I literally went back home with that one guitar and one suitcase and 2 changes of clothes, because I was only planning on being in New York for the weekend. And I lived off that shit for a year. I stayed in the same clothes every day, much to other people's dismay. But I definitely was like, I don't need anything. What I need is connection and good friends and good people around me. And it just really opened up my heart, because before that fire, I had gotten to a place where I had everything I ever wanted except for happiness. I was not happy. I was isolated. I was depressed, and I was uninspired. I was uninspired to write anything musically good at all. I had hit a wall. I'd hit a wall of complacency and desensitization. I just did not have it in me to pick up the pen and write something inspiring, because I had 2 of everything I ever wanted finally, and I was just like, this is, and was more distracted, I think, by that at the time than I was making music. And so I literally took my laptop that I had with me, and I took my guitar, and we holed up in a hotel because we didn't have a home. So just went to a hotel, which luckily I could afford to do, and was thinking, all I could think about was how a lot of people that couldn't afford to do that lost that. Maybe they live in a fucking cardboard box, and that cardboard box burns. That's all they had. Yeah. And they lost it all. Yeah. And that just, that made me sad, but it also made me feel grateful. And so I just started writing and writing and writing, and the floodgates opened, and it made that record, Sycamore Meadows, that I couldn't write a single song for leading up to that.
And what are you working on now?
Just working on a few things. I mean, I've got some records in the pipeline that are coming out that I'm excited about, that, because of COVID, they got delayed severely, but I've got a record for Morgan Kibbe coming out. She was in M83. The record is phenomenal. It's very cinematic, strings, beautiful. Lee Hazelwood meets Serge Gainsbourg meets, Dusty Springfield, and like, I don't know, it's cool. And then I have a record for Bethany Cosentino, the singer from Best Coast. And it is incredible. It's phenomenal. To me, it sounds like a lost Sheryl Crow or Bonnie Raitt record. It's not Best Coast, and it's everything she wants to be, which I love. Big singing voice. amazing. There's that. Oh God, what else? I mean, just several other things in the pipeline. I'm getting ready to work on a record for this. Actually, it's a non-binary um, country artist named Adeem the artist. Uh, Getting ready to start their record, and it's phenomenal and it's raw. They are really lyrically on fire, and it's really cool. There's something brewing that is going to be announced in about a week from now. We are, or we have already announced, depending on when. It's We are doing a reunion for my group, the Marvelous3, who hasn't played
Oh,
together,
wow.
and we are doing the 25th anniversary of the debut album, on reissuing it on vinyl, which has never come out on vinyl because back then there was no demand for vinyl, and a new record to boot at the same time. And we're announcing a couple of shows in our hometown of Atlanta, Georgia, that are
How
going to be
fun. How
pretty
fucking
fun.
fun. Any coming up to San Francisco?
I don't know because this is early and we haven't announced the shows yet as of right now, as I'm speaking to you at this moment. But the show, we wanted to wait and see if the first one sells well before we announce the second one. And then if we announce the second one, there might be other shows in other cities added if there's enough demand. But right now, the idea for us is to fun and done.
Well, this has been really, really here. I'm gonna thank you very much. Hang on.
All right.
Let me hang on.